Yo, welcome to the Hoop Objective Podcast with your boy Armani. Yesterday we just got wrapped up with, those first round series in the NBA playoffs, and I mean, it wasn't as climactic as you would want it to be, especially with the Toronto versus Philly series. Philly ends up blowing out Toronto and ending the series. Then you got Dallas, beating Utah, which was expected. We expected that to happen, to be honest with you. None of us was rooting for Utah, and, we knew that was going to happen. And then you got Golden State. And then you got the Grizzlies beating the Wolves. And the Wolves did another one of those games where it's like, they won the game, but they didn't win the game, if y'all know what I mean. Like, bro, how are the Timberwolves doing this consistently? I don't know how they've been getting these leads and even double-digit leads going into the fourth quarter and not closing it out. So, yeah, man, we're going to get into that. And without further delay, let's get started. Let's go ahead and I'm not going to do a little summary. I'm not going to do a summary of that series because we talked about that series enough on this podcast. We talked about how the Grizzlies didn't play up to their standards, and then you got Minnesota. They weren't closing out games, and y'all know they're the lowest IQ team in the playoffs. And their youth really got to them, and you got the coaching not being up to par. So we're not gonna get into the talking points that everyone's the same talking points that everyone's doing. What I want to do is I want to get deeper into what's going on with Minnesota. And it's like, we all see that everyone knows that Minnesota should have won that series in 5. Minnesota had that series won in 5 games, bro. All they had to do was close out those games. And there were so many things and so many factors that went into them not closing those games. And the first thing I want to start with is, bro, D'Lo is not your guy at point guard. I'm sorry. I know he's talented. I know that's, he's Karl-Anthony Towns' guy and those two are close. But D'Lo isn't your guy at that point guard spot. And you've seen that in this playoff series. D'Lo made some mistakes that it's not really young guy mistakes. It was the way he was playing was super casual, and he didn't really try to get his teammates into their best spots, especially as a point guard. That's your main job, is getting your teammates in their best spots and getting them into the best position of scoring / making that offense as optimal as it can be. And D'Lo never tried to do that. All you really see from D'Lo is he would try to get into the paint here and there, and then when he doesn't get into the paint, or when he gets stopped, he takes a contested 3 or a contested mid-range jumper, and it's like, that's not what you want to do as a point guard, and 2 as a third option. Because D'Lo is a third option, and the way he played, it wasn't conducive to helping the Timberwolves winning. And he would have these little runs. D'Lo would have these little runs to where he can score 8 to 12 points, at a time. But even with those runs, he was honestly a net negative, because D'Lo isn't a good defender. We can't sit here and call D'Lo a good defender. He's not he's not contributing anything to the team in that sense. So when it comes to the way Minnesota gave this series away, D'Lo was a huge part of that, and nobody's really talking about it. No one's really talking about how D'Lo didn't really contribute anything other than those little runs that he would have where he would score. He would make like two 3-pointers and a layup. Like, that's the only thing he really brought to the table, and that's the only thing he's brought to the table all regular season. He has made some improvements when it comes to being a playmaker, because I'm not going to sit here and call him a trash playmaker, but when it comes to the playoffs and trying to get deeper in the playoffs and getting past the first round, D'Lo's playmaking isn't to the level where it'll help you, get past the first round. So when and you got to think about it like this too. Y'all got to think about this too. The Warriors destroyed them on that trade, bro. The Warriors killed them on that trade. That trade where the Warriors gave away D'Lo in exchange for Wiggins and like a pick or two. I think they got one pick out of Minnesota, and that pick ended up being Jonathan Kuminga. And imagine if Jonathan Kuminga was on that Timberwolves squad with Anthony Edwards, and you know what I'm saying? So it's like the Warriors killed them in that trade. The Warriors ended up getting Andrew Wiggins, who ended up making an All-Star team. He was an All-Star starter, but that don't really count. It counts, but I don't think that's something that you can put in Wiggins' favor when it comes to how good he is. But he did make an All-Star team, which was much deserved. Wiggins did deserve to make the All-Star team this year, considering his perimeter defense and his improvements in scoring. And when I say his improvements in scoring, he hasn't improved in terms of volume as a scorer, but he has improved in efficiency, which is big. Except for that free throw slump that he's in right now. He's been in a free throw slump since the end of the year, and in the playoffs especially. He hasn't been shooting well from the free throw line. But other than that, bro, that's a big. Honestly, just Wiggins himself is good enough to say that the Warriors won that trade. The Warriors also got that 7th pick in Jonathan Kuminga. So they traded D'Angelo Russell for Wiggins and Jonathan Kuminga, basically. And that's big. That's big, bro. That's something that Minnesota should have to answer for, to be honest with you. So they get D'Lo, but D'Lo isn't their guy, and we can see that D'Lo isn't their guy. Also, Chris Finch isn't your guy. I talked about him in the podcast the other day, and I don't want to get too deep into Chris Finch because we all seen in this playoff series why I say he's not your guy. He struggles with making in-game adjustments. He struggles with getting those young guys, playing. He struggles in getting those young guys efficient shots or good shots. And honestly, I just don't see how did he benefit this young team other than having them improve in the regular season. We gotta give him credit where credit is due. Under Chris Finch, the Timberwolves have improved. They have improved in the regular season, and they made the playoffs. They did make a playoff, so he's probably gonna stay. They're not gonna get rid of him, but I don't see the value in Chris Finch, honestly. And this series showed why I don't see the value in Chris Finch. But the thing is, I don't think that playoff appearance was a testament to how good of a coach he is. That playoff appearance was a testament to how the young guys are improving, especially Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels and all of those guys. That's a testament to the Timberwolves improving, not necessarily the coaching of Chris Finch and his staff, to be honest with you. I don't think Chris Finch is going to be their long-term guy. I think he reminds me a lot of Brett Brown when Brett Brown was at Philly. Philly seen him as a guy that was going to be able to get them out of that rebuild, and then Brett Brown eventually made the playoffs, and it made him look good, so they ended up keeping him. But Brett Brown, we all know that Brett Brown, he wasn't that guy, and Chris Finch isn't that guy, and we all can see that. So I don't want to talk about Chris Finch too much. Let's go talk about supposedly the franchise guy, the face of the franchise for Minnesota, and that's Karl-Anthony Towns. And we got to hold Karl-Anthony Towns accountable. And I'm sure, especially with him saying he was the greatest big man shooter of all time, I'm pretty sure that he sees himself as the face of that franchise and, the guy for Minnesota. And we clearly seen in that series, we could clearly see that Karl-Anthony Towns isn't that guy or their guy, to be honest with you. He can be a building block when it comes to trying to help them get deeper in the playoffs and hopefully, eventually, sometime in the future, winning a championship. But he can't be your number one guy. And I'm hoping that after after what? Karl-Anthony Towns, he's been in the league, what, 7 years? I assume that after this long of him being in the NBA, that the Timberwolves can see now that, yes, he's super talented. He's talented enough to bring you to, to win you a championship, but he doesn't have that mentality, nor does he have the play style to be that best player on a championship team. To be honest, that guy on Minnesota is Anthony Edwards. They do have that guy. That guy is on their roster. Anthony Edwards, like when he gets into his prime or when he starts getting better or getting closer to his full potential, Anthony Edwards will be able to lead you to a championship. He will be able to be the best player on the championship team. I'm telling y'all that right now. And I'm not only saying that because he's a good shooter, he's uber athletic, he has the potential of being a good defender. I say that because of his mindset, his mentality. And Anthony Edwards, he does believe that he's the best player in the league. He said himself, he didn't say he was the best player in the league, but he said he was the best defender in the league, which we all know isn't true. But the fact that he thinks that, the fact that he believes in himself to that extent, it shows you that, he does have that. He has that. He's a dog, bro. He's a dog. He has that mentality to, be able to lead a team and be able to show them how to win. When he gets to that level, he'll be able to show them how to win, how to work, how to go against these other star players. He's going to be that guy, bro. Anthony Edwards is going to be that guy. I'm telling you that right now. And he ain't soft. He not like Cat. As a basketball player, I'm not saying as a person. Cat is soft as a basketball player, to be honest with you. Cat is very soft as a basketball player. He's not going to be able to lead y'all to, or he's not going to be able to lead Minnesota to a championship, not because of his talent, but because of his leadership skills, and he's not a dog. Karl-Anthony Towns isn't a dog, and everyone knows that. Draymond Green was saying himself, he's like, bro, Karl-Anthony Towns need to stop talking. At some point, he need to just be himself. He need to just be himself at this point, because when he try to act like he a dog or try to talk, like, he not that dude. He don't play as well as he usually does when he tries to do that. So, we can't expect Cat. We can't keep expecting Cat to be that best player on the championship team, because he's not. He can be a second or third guy, but he's not going to be the best player. Anthony Edwards will be able to do that. I think building around Anthony Edwards while keeping Cat. I ain't saying get rid of Cat. Because as talented as Karl-Anthony Towns is, you got to keep him. But you have to build around Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards is the dude. And D'Lo's, he's not your guard for the future, to be honest. And Chris Finch isn't your head coach for the future. And I'm pretty sure Minnesota will see that pretty soon. They're going to see that pretty soon. When it comes to that series, though, Ja didn't look good, bro. Ja didn't look good. And I don't think it was necessarily because of the way he was playing. I just think it was a bad matchup. Constantly getting attacked by Anthony Edwards and, D'Angelo Russell, even though he didn't play well, he had, he's a threat when it comes to being a shot creator. And I think Minnesota did a good job of neutralizing him in the series. Not necessarily his teammates. They didn't do the best job in neutralizing his teammates, but in terms of neutralizing Ja, I think they did a good job in that. And the Grizzlies got past the first round. Let's make this clear. The Grizzlies got past the first round not because of how good they played, not because of how good that, Taylor Jenkins has coached. They got past this first round because Minnesota made stupid, idiotic mistakes, young guy mistakes. They got saved in this series, to be honest with y'all, because they should have lost this series if they would have played an experienced team, or honestly a decently smart team, or a team with a little bit of common sense. If they would have played a team like that, they would have been done in 5 games in the series. The Grizzlies would have lost in 5, bro. They would have lost in 5. And it's not because the team didn't play well, because honestly, I think Desmond Bane and Dillon Brooks, I think those guys played well, but their stars are the ones who didn't play good. Jaren Jackson Jr. did not play well, and John Morant did not play well. And also, they weren't able to play Steven Adams, who's been a really good playmaker for them this year. I think Steven Adams as a playmaker, if y'all been watching it, if y'all haven't watched the Grizzlies, y'all don't know how good of a playmaker Steven Adams really is. And the fact that he couldn't play in this series was big because, you know, they couldn't get those same looks that they could have gotten with Steven Adams on the floor. So yeah, but still though, the Grizzlies, they got saved. They got saved, bro. They got saved. I'm gonna just put it like that. And for them to have to play a team like the Warriors, we're gonna get into that a little later, but that's gonna be tough. I'm just gonna say that for now. That's gonna be tough. But I want to get into the second round predictions for, you know, round 2. And I think this is where the playoffs really starts. You know, the round 1 was really good. The first round was really good. We got some good moments out of it. But round 2 is going to be lit. And the first series I want to talk about is the Suns versus Mavs. And my prediction for Suns versus Mavs, second round matchup, Suns in 7. I got the Suns at 7, and I think the Suns will win because of their interior presence and their perimeter defense. I like guys like, you know, DeAndre Ayton or JaVale McGee, Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder. Those guys are going to be the reason why the Suns win. And not because Dallas aren't good when it comes to their front court or their perimeter defense, because they're okay. But I say that because they can't match. They don't have the guys to really match up with those guys. Who's going to match up with Jay Crowder really? And who's going to match up with Mikal Bridges really? Who's going to match up with DeAndre Ayton really? If y'all know what I mean, you know. And when I say match up for those guys, I mean like on defense, mostly on defense, because the Suns as a perimeter, you know, defense team, they're good. They're really good, and that was one of the building blocks for them all year and all of last year is perimeter defense. And their interior defense got better with that JaVale McGee signing. If y'all remember, they signed JaVale McGee, and JaVale has been really good for them all year. And he was big in terms of helping them improve their interior defense. And DeAndre Ayton has been a force. He was a force versus New Orleans. You know, when Devin Booker, when he was out, DeAndre Ayton had to really be that second option. And he played well. He played well in that role. So, I expect DeAndre Ayton to keep the ball rolling when it comes into the next series. And Dallas has no one to match up with that. Who's going to match up with DeAndre Ayton? Dwight Powell? Like, bro, I'm telling y'all. Ayton's going to have a big series, and he's going to be one of the biggest reasons why the Suns end up beating Dallas. And if those guys do not play well, I'm telling y'all right now, the Suns are not winning that series, because y'all see that I have it going 7. I have that series going 7 because I do believe it'll be close, because those guys, to be honest, let's be real, those guys aren't stars, so they're not going to be able to do what they can. They're not going to be able to play their best every game, because we have to remember that they're role players. They're not going to be able to be the best player on your team on a nightly basis. None of them. So if those guys don't play well in the majority of the games, for example, 4 games, they have to win 4 games on the series. So if those guys don't play well in 4 out of the 7 games, the Suns won't win the series. There's no way they're going to win the series. Because when it comes to the guard play, it's pretty even matched. If you want me to be real, Chris Paul. Well, no, let me not even start with Chris Paul. Let's start with the best player on the court and the best player in the series. Luka Doncic is clearly the best player in this series. And he's going to be a big reason why the Mavericks take this 7, because when it comes to guard play, who's going to stop Luka? Who's going to guard Luka? I know they got perimeter. Like I said, they have those perimeter guys in Mikal Bridges and Jay Crowder who you can throw on him. But Luka is really, his matchup is really Chris Paul and Devin Booker, because Luka is a guard. Luka is basically their point guard. So those are that's really his matchup, is Chris Paul and Devin Booker. and he's gonna outplay both of those guys. To be honest with you, we all know that Luka's gonna end up outplaying them. So, even though Luka is the best player in the series, though, it's even when it comes to guard play because the Suns have 2 stars. They have 2-star guards that who can consistently play as stars every game. Every night that you're gonna see Chris Paul and Devin Booker show up, and Chris Paul had those 2 bad games versus New Orleans, and I don't really take that too serious because it was New Orleans. He didn't really have to play with much of a sense of urgency to beat them, except for in Game 6 where he took over, shot 14-14. He had literally a perfect game. Chris Paul had a perfect game, so he's going to be able to give you some of those perfect games, not perfect games, but almost perfect games versus Dallas. And then you got Devin Booker, who is a killer, cold-hearted killer. He's super clutch. Y'all know Devin Booker, one of the best mid-range jumpers in the league. And there's not much that Dallas is going to be able to do with those 2 guys because, like I said, Dallas isn't really a great perimeter defense team. So they're not going to be able to do anything with those guys. But Dallas they can compete with those guys in terms of guard play because they not only have Luka, but they got Dinwiddie and Jalen Brunson, and those guys are going to be able to show up on a night in and night out basis, even though they're not stars. Because if y'all watch that first series, Dinwiddie showed up almost every game. Jalen Brunson showed up every game. So, and especially when Luka was out. When Luka was out, you had Dinwiddie and Jalen Brunson playing like they were the 2 stars of the team. They ended up going 2-1 on Utah without Luka Doncic. So, I'm not expecting it to be a matchup, like a bad matchup for them in terms of guard play because they have 3 guards who can, show up on a nightly basis. And then you got the Suns, but where the Suns have that advantage and why I think they'll win the series is those other guys. It's not the guards, bro. They don't have an advantage when it comes to the guards because they don't have the best guard on the court. And Dallas they don't have a second star when it comes to guards, but they got Brunson and Dinwiddie, who, if you combine their production, that would be another star. So it's pretty even in terms of guard play, but when it comes to the other guys, that's where the Suns will win the series. And not only will they win the series with that perimeter defense and interior presence, but I believe that Monty Williams is a better coach than Jason Kidd. So it's not like a blowout. It's not by far, but I do believe it's a pretty sizable difference when you talk about Monty Williams and Jason Kidd. And Jason Kidd has done really good this year. They struggled a little bit in the beginning, but Jason Kidd was able to, start getting that team to start playing to the level that we know that Dallas can play to. But if the Mavs do win, it's going to be because of those 3 guys playing crazy, especially Luka. When it comes to Luka, Dinwiddie, and Jalen Brunson, if those guys consistently give you 80 to almost 90 points a night, Dallas will win the series. They can win the series, but that's a lot to ask. They give you every single night. That's a lot to ask. And I'm not saying they don't have any other good players because they do have Dorian Finney-Smith and, guys like that. But in terms of depth, they're not that good. They're not that good, which I'm sure they're going to address going into the offseason. But yeah, man, when it comes to that series, I got the Suns in 7. It's going to be even when it comes to guard play. And then, like I said, perimeter defense and interior presence is what's going to end up winning them that series. But I want to go ahead and get into the next series, and we got Heat versus Philly, and I got the Heat in 5. Y'all know I'm a Heat fan. I say that every time we talk about them, and I start blushing every time I talk about them. Pause, no homo. I start like bubbling up talking about the Heat because I'm such a huge fan. As y'all can see, I'm such a huge fan. So, but anyways, Joel Embiid, he's gonna probably end up missing the whole series, the whole second round. due to a crack in his skull or a fracture in his skull or something like that. That's big, bro. That's probably the biggest news of the season, to be honest. He already had that torn ligament in his hand, in his right hand, and then he's gonna be out with this. That's gonna be big for Philly because without Embiid, honestly, I still had them losing the series with Embiid, but without Embiid, this is going 5. Heat and 5, bro. Heat and 5. And the thing with that injury, something I want to bring up is the way he got injured. Honestly, if you want me to, I'm going to be real about it. It was idiotic, and I'm going to put that on Doc Rivers. Reason being is Philly shouldn't have even been playing in that game in the first place. They shouldn't have been playing in that game in the first place. Philly should have closed it out in 4 or in 5 at the most. They should have closed that series out in 5 at the most. Toronto was, they're a young team. They're a really good young and upcoming team. But, bro, that series should have been close. Considering the Raptors, their experience and then the injuries they was going through. That shouldn't have been close. Bro. It took them 6 games to close it out when it should have been done in 4 and 5. And, having Embiid taking those extra hits, considering his injury problems, was big, bro. And even in that game, in game 6, though, Philly was up what? It was late in the fourth quarter. They was up 20, 25 points. Why was he in the game? Someone has to take, Doc Rivers has to take accountability, bro. Like, why was Joel Embiid in this game, winning by 20 to 25 points late in the fourth quarter, bro? What, like, Doc Rivers, bro. Doc Rivers. I'm putting this on him. This is on him, bro. And so I think Philly and Philly fans, they can't complain because this was on y'all. Y'all shouldn't have been playing in that game 6, and Joel Embiid shouldn't have been in the game late like that. And y'all knew y'all had a series coming up, and y'all know his injury issues. Like, nah, bro, that's on y'all. And for Philly to be able to have a chance in the series, even without Embiid, I don't think they're completely done. Even though I have them losing in 5, in my personal opinion, they have almost no chance, but they do have a chance. And if they can get James Harden playing like his old MVP self, which he hasn't been bad. I've been a Harden defender religiously, but when it comes to Harden, if y'all could get him scoring, as efficiently, and if y'all could get that same volume out of him that he had in that 2018 season, averaging 35 points per game, y'all might have a chance if he can do that consistently in every game. He has to be able to do that every game for y'all to be able to have a chance. But we haven't seen that from Harden in 2 years, two and a half years. Since that 2019 it was a 2020 season. The bubble season was the last time he averaged like a crazy number when it came to volume and scoring, which was like 35 to 36 points per game. And I don't think we're gonna see that out of him in this playoffs, honestly. We haven't seen that from him in a while, being in terms of volume, in terms of sheer volume and scoring. We haven't seen that in a while, and honestly, that's the only chance they have to win this series. If Harden comes into the series trying to be playmaker James Harden, get his teammates involved James Harden, which is fine. That's fine. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but bro, you can't come into this series doing that. This is a series where you gotta take over. You gotta be selfish because your best player is out. Joel Embiid's not gonna be there to help you, bro. So you gotta be selfish and you gotta take over. You can't give Miami a chance to make runs and then be up by 15 and 20, and now you got to play hero, and you can't do that. James Harden's he's gonna have to come into these games aggressive from the first quarter. He's gonna have to drop about 7 or 8 points a quarter for them to have a chance. That's the only way they're gonna have a chance, bro. And he's capable. I think James Harden's still capable of that. I don't think he necessarily has that same burst that he had, but I do believe he's just as strong and he's just as crafty as he was, and he'll still be able to get to the free throw line and he'll still be able to get to the rim at a high clip. And as we can see, his step back hasn't gone away. He can still do that. He can still shoot threes. He can still be efficient when he wants to be. But he's gonna have to do that consistently to give Philly even a chance. They'll even give them a chance. He's gonna have to average, I'm gonna say 33 to 35. Probably 6 to 8 assists and about 5 to 6 rebounds for them to have a chance, which I know he's capable of. I still am a huge believer in James Harden, and I'm sure he's capable of doing it, but will he do it? It's a question. That's the big factor in Philly winning this game, or not winning this game, winning this series, is getting a big performance out of James Harden. But honestly, I don't think that's going to happen. I also think that Doc Rivers, he's gonna get lapped in this series by Erik Spoelstra. Erik Spoelstra is gonna show why Doc Rivers isn't that good of a coach. And I'm not a Doc Rivers hater. I don't want to come off like I'm a Doc Rivers hater, but I want to be real about what we've seen from him for a decade, even for a decade. We've been seeing this from Doc Rivers from a decade, blowing series and making, having dumb rotations. And for example, having Joel Embiid in the game late in the fourth quarter up by 20 to 25 points. That's crazy to me. You can't defend that. So it's like, we've seen Doc Rivers make these stupid mistakes over a period of time. This isn't recent. This is over a period of time. And Erik Spoelstra has been able to minimize those same mistakes. He's minimized, making those dumb rotations, bad clock management. Erik Spoelstra hasn't made those mistakes. I haven't seen him make those mistakes in a while, to be honest with you. And also, Erik Spoelstra has a system. He has a system that, is most conducive to making his players play the best that they can be, and winning games and winning. We just won a series playing the way with Erik Spoelstra's system, and we didn't just win that series. We dominated that series. We dominated the other team's best player in Trae Young, and Philly's in the same type of situation that Trae Young and the Hawks are in terms of not having a big that's reliable, and then you have the best player on your team being a guard. But other than that, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Like, if James Harden doesn't play well, you got Tyrese Maxey, but Tyrese Maxey is a young guy. He's still a young guy. I don't think Tyrese Maxey can win you a series on his own. And all the stars in the league can win a series on their own, but I don't think Maxey is quite that guy yet. He can become that guy, but he's not that guy yet. And James Harden, we're going to be able to box James Harden in without Joel Embiid, without having that big interior threat in the paint that, Harden will be able to lob it to, and they'll be able to do those pick and rolls, pick and pops. Like, without having that guy, bro, that doesn't look too good. That's not going to look too good for Harden. And they have to have him, playing like Houston James Harden for them to be able to win. But that's not going to happen, bro. That's not going to happen, especially playing Miami, bro. When it comes to our perimeter defense, and then we got multiple guys we could throw on him. We could throw Jimmy on him. We can throw Kyle on him. We could throw Bam on him. We can throw PJ on him. There's so many guys we can throw on him. We could throw Victor Oladipo on him. Especially after those last two games he had. He was really good as a scorer, and then you got the perimeter defense. He has the perimeter defense back. So we could throw him on James Harden. There's so many guys that we can throw on him, bro. It's crazy. It's crazy to think about if you really think about it. And I don't think Doc Rivers will be able to make the adjustments that he'll have to make to counter that, to counter what Miami's going to throw at them. But yeah, I mean, I do see Philly getting one. I think Philly will get one. And I think in that game it'll be a big Harden and Maxey game. But other than that, bro, the Philly won't be able to counter what Miami throws at them, bro. And without Joel Embiid, our perimeter defense will be able to flourish because we won't have to throw, like when Joel Embiid catches it on the block or when he faces up on the block, bro, we won't have to throw an extra defender at him, or nor will we have to even hedge. We won't even have to hedge because when you hedge, bro, that defender kind of sort of leaves he could leave a guy open in the corner or leave a guy open on the wing. So without Joel Embiid bringing that dominant, presence on the inside, we won't have to bring an extra guy in. We won't have to bring an extra guy in there, meaning our perimeter defense will be able to just swarm. We'll be able to just swarm that 3-point line, bro. There's no way Philly's gonna have a good series from the 3-point line. I'm telling y'all, that's dead. That's dead. Miami's gonna cook. We're gonna nip that in the bud, bro. I'm telling you. And I can also see without Joel Embiid being there, Bam will be able to flourish because last series he didn't play his best. And it's not because there was someone in the paint really mitigating what he could do. Well, actually, there was. I'm lying. There was a guy who actually did play pretty well on him and from the inside, and that was Onyeka Okongwu from the Hawks. So that's a hard name to pronounce, to be honest. Onyeka Okongwu. And I remember watching him actually in high school with, Chino Hills and Lonzo and them, and then him going to USC, having a good year there, and then getting drafted at number 6 to the Hawks. And he's a really talented interior defender and defender in general, to be honest with you. And he did give Bam a hard time. But there's nobody there's not a big O in the paint for Philly because Joel Embiid isn't there. Honestly, if Joel Embiid was there, I could see him giving Bam a hard time. I could also see him giving Bam a hard time because Bam honestly isn't, he's an okay mid-range shooter, but other than that, he can't space the floor. So his only way of scoring is from the inside. And Joel Embiid being in there, bro, he's not going to be able to do that the way he usually is. So, now that Joel Embiid is out, y'all going to see a showing from Bam. He's gonna probably have a 20-10, 5 assists, 2 blocks a game type series without Joel Embiid being there, which is, that's going to be big for his confidence going into the rest of the playoffs because he's going to have to play either Giannis or play the Celtics with their great defense. So, that this is going to be big for his confidence. We also got Tyler. I think Tyler, and not just Tyler, that whole Miami Heat bench, they're gonna have a showing too. Cause Philly isn't a deep team. I like Shake Milton on their bench, but other than Shake Milton, really, I'm not a fan of Philly's bench. And they're not a deep team at all, bro. And that's something they're gonna have to focus on going into the offseason. But yeah, bro, when we got Victor playing, he's back. Then we got Tyler being back. Then we got Max. We're gonna have some role players from that bench. Gabe Vincent. We're gonna have some guys go at that Philly bench, bro. When you take Harden and when you take Maxey off the court, bro, it's going to be a mixed match. It's going to be bad. It's when it comes to the starters, we're not going to outscore them that bad when it comes to the starters, to be honest with you. But when you get those stars some rest, and when Harden has to sit, when Maxey has to sit, then their bench has to come in, and then their bench has to play our bench, which is one of the best benches in the league. We're one of the deepest teams in the league. Bro, that's going to be a massacre. That's going to be bad, bro. That's going to be bad. And then you got to think about it like this. Their bench is going to have to play a starter who, honestly, Tyler Hero is the starter level. He's going to be a 6th man of the year this year. They're going to have to play that guy. He's on the same level as Tyrese Maxey. And they're going to have to play him coming off the bench? with Harden and Maxey resting, bro. It's a bad matchup for them. And honestly, it was a bad matchup for them before Embiid got hurt. Even before Embiid got hurt, bro, this was a bad matchup for them. But not having Embiid and then having to go into this series that's already a bad matchup, bro, it's not going to be close. It's not going to be close. Heat in 5. If Embiid was to come back maybe for a game, maybe Heat in 6, but the Heat's going to take this. The Heat's going to go to the conference finals. And, let's go ahead and get into the last series that I'm going to make predictions for, because I already made my predictions for the Celtics and Bucks in the previous podcast episode. So if y'all want to know what I think about the Bucks and Celtics, y'all could go look at that. Y'all could go watch that episode and, get my take on, what's going to happen. And y'all can go see my prediction. Spoiler alert, Bucks in 7. But let's go ahead and get into this Warriors and Grizzlies series. And I got the Warriors in 6. Other than playing, but the thing is, other than playing, Giannis or Jokic, the Grizzlies they're a bad matchup. They're not a good matchup for the Warriors, to be honest with you. Grizzlies have had their number in the past, especially in the regular season. The Grizzlies, they do have a winning record versus Golden State in the regular season in the past 2 years. And we can't forget when they beat Golden State in the play-in game to get to the playoffs last year. And ended up taking that 8th seed away from them. They ended up snatching that 8th seed away from the Warriors, because nobody expected the Grizzlies to beat the Warriors last year in that play-in tournament. And they ended up doing it, bro. And I think the Warriors want their get back for that. I think the Warriors are gonna look at this like, we ready to get y'all back. Because y'all ended up knocking us out the playoffs last year, and we try and do that to y'all this year. And I'm pretty sure that's how the Warriors are going to look at it. But the Grizzlies not scared, bro, because the Grizzlies have beaten the Warriors recently. They have been beating the Warriors. And I think that the Grizzlies also have that chip on their shoulder to where they wouldn't back down to Golden State. But the thing is, bro, the reason why I give Golden State the edge, even though the Grizzlies have their number, is, bro, that Warriors playoff experience is invaluable, bro. Y'all can't put a price on that, or y'all can't dummy that down, because when it comes to the Warriors playoff experience, being into their core, their Draymond, Curry, Clay, going to 5 straight finals, winning in the finals, losing the finals, losing in the playoffs, like, the Warriors do have that experience and that knowledge to be able to, in a playoff series, bro, the Grizzlies not going to beat them, bro. The Grizzlies can't beat them. And we seen that in the Minnesota series. We seen in the Minnesota series that the Grizzlies have problems that they have to address, bro. They have problems that they have to address. What's y'all going to do when you take away those lanes to the rim? Because he's not a good shooter. He's not a great shooter. Let's be real. Nor is he a great defender, if we're gonna be honest. He's an okay shot blocker. Like, Jaw's a good shot blocker. He can make highlight plays on defense, but he isn't the best defender. And then you got them they're not an experienced team. The only experience that they really have is playing Minnesota, and I don't really know if that's the best playoff experience to have, because y'all was getting whooped by a 7 seed almost every game. The Timberwolves were beating the Grizzlies almost every game. The only reason the Timberwolves lost this series is because they couldn't close anything. They couldn't close out any games, bro. And like I said, the Timberwolves are one of the lowest IQ teams in the playoffs. So beating the Timberwolves wasn't that big of an accomplishment, if we're going to be real. And especially the way they won wasn't that much of an accomplishment. But, the Timberwolves, or not even the Timberwolves, the Grizzlies expose themselves when it comes to how they are in the playoffs. Because the playoffs is a completely different thing from the regular season. It really is, as you can see from DeMar DeRozan. It's a completely different thing, bro. You can't compare it. So I don't believe in the Grizzlies as a playoff team, not only because of them not having the experience, but because we have the evidence that shows that they're not a great playoff team yet. But they are playing with house money. Nobody's expecting the Grizzlies to win at this point because of what we just seen. No one's expecting them to win. So they're coming into this series with no expectations, if we being real. The Warriors have all the expectations, meaning the Warriors have all the pressure. The Warriors have all the pressure to win this series, bro. So the Grizzlies playing with house money, I think that's going to be big for them because they're not going to be feeling that pressure with those young guys, especially because they lack experience. Them not feeling that pressure is going to be big. That's going to be a big factor going into the series. And another thing I want to mention that people don't talk about too much is that the Warriors have a system that isn't perfect, but it is reputable. It is reputable in the sense that we know what it's going to bring. We know that Warrior system can honestly play versus any team. Versus any team, it's a matchup. Because you got Steph coming off those ball screens, and you got Klay coming off those ball screens, and you got Draymond directing traffic offensively and defensively. Then you got Jordan Poole somewhere out there. It's like you got so much focus on the two best shooters of all time, and Steph and Klay. Then you got Jordan Poole, who's another 40%. He's a 40% 3-point shooter, 90% free throw shooter. You got him running around somewhere, and you gotta watch for Steph and Klay, and when you got all those guys moving, swarming, coming off ball screens, it's like, what can you do as a young team in the playoffs, bro? There's nothing the Grizzlies are going to be able to do against that. But I do think they got some guys that can, on the other end, make it tough on Golden State. Steph he's not a defensive liability anymore. I honestly think Steph is a really underrated help defender. But who's Steph going to guard? If you think about it, is he going to guard Ja Morant, who is he's a pretty strong, high-flying slasher. He's a pretty fast slasher, too. He's super fast. He's super quick. Is he going to guard Ja? No. Is he going to guard Desmond Bane, who's super strong? He's going to be almost twice as strong as Steph Curry. And then he's also a really good sharpshooter. Is he going to guard Desmond Bane? No. Like, Curry can't hide on defense. He can't hide on defense. Is he going to guard Dillon Brooks? No. No, they're probably going to throw him on Dillon Brooks, but Dillon Brooks isn't no slouch offensively. And then Klay, honestly, he's I'll say he's 90% to where he was at, before his injuries. But Klay's not fully there as a defender yet. Klay, before he got hurt, he was an all-NBA caliber defender. And I'm not going to say Klay is back to that yet. Offensively, he's pretty close. But defensively, I'll say he's 85%, 80%. He's not the same all-NBA caliber defender yet. So it's not like Klay's going to lock down anyone. It's not like Klay's going to lock down Ja or lock down Desmond Bane or any of those guys. So Jordan Poole's definitely not. The only two guys on that, in that lineup would be Draymond and Andrew Wiggins, who will be able to play, pretty good perimeter defense and interior defense for that matter. But the Warriors are going to struggle guarding the Grizzlies in terms of on the perimeter. But that's where they're going to win this series. If the Golden State Warriors can play above average or a top 10 level perimeter defense, they're going to win this series easily. It's going to be easy for them. They're not going to struggle in this series because offensively, the Grizzlies won't be able to stop them. They couldn't even stop Minnesota. So they're not going to be able to stop Golden State offensively. It's just going to be on the other end, how is Golden State going to be able to defend the Grizzlies? Excuse me. But yeah, man. And one last thing that I want to mention when it comes to Golden State is that they have the better players. They have the better star players. When it comes to star-to-star matchups, it's pretty guard-oriented, if you want me to be honest. You got Ja versus Steph. Who you taking in the playoff series when it comes to Ja versus Steph? You taking Steph. You got Desmond Bane versus Klay Thompson. Who you taking? When it comes to this year, honestly, it's pretty close between those guys. But when you consider that playoff experience and, that basketball IQ that Klay has, it's like, you taking Klay. They're pretty similar players, but I'm taking Klay. And then you got Draymond Green versus JJJ. You clearly taking Draymond Green. So when it comes to the star matchups also, you're going to have to take Golden State. You have to take Golden State. Steph is the best point guard in the league. He's probably been the best point guard in the league for, I'll say, 7 to 8 years. Then you got Klay Thompson, who's the second best shooter of all time, who's a pretty good defender even after, what he's been through. Not quite the defender, but when it comes to him versus a Desmond Bane matchup, I'm going to take Klay. And then when you got Draymond, who's probably the highest basketball IQ, or I'll say he has a top 3 basketball IQ in the league. And, he's a top 3 defender in the league in terms of, in any way, shape, or form, when you combine perimeter defense and interior defense. He's one of the best defenders in the league. And offensively, he's the quarterback of that team. So when you consider all of that, you taking Draymond Green any day over any of the Grizzlies bigs, even over Brandon Clark and Steven Adams, JJJ, over all of those guys, you taking Draymond Green. So, for a matter of fact, actually, I think Draymond Green is he's going to be the most impactful player in the series. I thought Steph was in the last series. I think Draymond Green was number 2 to Steph. Those two are honestly always the most valuable players on that team. But I think Steph was a little bit more valuable than Draymond because, Steph was the guy who had to close the games versus Jokic. So Steph was the one going back and forth with Jokic, even though Draymond was guarding him. When it came to both offensive ends, back and forth, Steph was having to go blow to blow with the, most likely 2-time MVP, Nikola Jokic. So, Steph was the most impactful player in the last series. This series is going to be Draymond Green. Draymond Green is going to be the most impactful player in this series, to be honest. But, yeah, man, if Draymond can get it's Draymond and Steph Curry could get the Warriors playing, top 10 caliber perimeter defense, they're going to easily take this. And I have the Warriors taking that in 6. So, yeah, man. But that's going to be it for this podcast episode. Those are my second round predictions, and y'all got my thoughts on Minnesota, and I gave y'all a little bit more of a deep dive of what I thought about them and that Grizzly series. And, but yeah, man, we're going to see how this plays out. And this is a road to the 2022 NBA Finals. I can't wait for that. But y'all go ahead and tune in to my recent video and the Lakers offseason breakdown. I broke down, I looked at how the Lakers did in this season. And, I broke down to, what they should do in this offseason to kind of mitigate the mistakes they made last offseason. So y'all go watch that, take a look at that, and, look out for the next one that I have, the next offseason breakdown that I have, which is going to be the Oklahoma City Thunder. I'm going to be breaking down OKC. So, y'all go ahead and look out for that, and just make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe this podcast episode, and, whatever streaming platform that you're using in terms of Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, whatever the case may be, wherever you're supporting me from, just continue to keep doing that. And I appreciate all the views, everyone's support. And yeah, man, just be back tomorrow. We're gonna be back tomorrow. But yeah, thank y'all for supporting, and I'm out. Peace.